Mina Patel is the Executive Director of Video Conference for Global Learning in the United Kingdom. Mina jointly chaired the UK VC Partnerships Group, where she has worked alongside national advisors from across the UK to put together broadband guidelines for the Department of Education to support VC technology in schools. What a brilliant mission, Mina. Her company was founded in June 2014 and aims to deliver thousands of English lessons via video conferencing to children all over the world directly from London. Mina is a former educator and she has completed her MSc in Technology Enhanced Learning, Innovation and Change. And Maria Isabel Burgos is a remote teacher from Video Conferencing for Global Learning in Spain, based in Spain, experienced in one-on-one tutoring and group instruction of ESL and Spanish, and skilled in adapting children's diverse learning difficulties for over 6 years. All right, welcome you both, and thank you so much again for being here, especially for EnproLI.
Well, it's an honor to be here today, all the way from London, and Maribel is all the way in Spain. Meg, can you check Maribel's video, please? Because I think you need to allow her to show her video. I think she's having some technical issues there.
Okay. So
if you give that a go. But yes, just to everybody today, you know, I'm absolutely honored to have been able to be working with Zoom, and for Zoom to give access via VCFGL to EnproLI today, to allow Brazilian English language teachers and students to actually go ahead and take part in an online seminar in a time when there's isolation and social distancing, and it's an honor for us to support EnproLI. And Meg is a close friend of mine, and I'm really proud of her, and I know it's new for Meg as well, and she's done really well. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to continue with my PowerPoint. I hope Maribel sorts her video out soon. So I'm just going to share my PowerPoint. Yeah, and right, so Maribel and I today are going to talk to you about transforming global teaching and learning through video conference technology. That's my expertise, and that's the experience that I've had for over 10 years, working with different classrooms in different contexts using video conferencing. First of all, I want to clarify what a video conference is, because there are lots of misconceptions going around about the use of video and remote teaching. So what I'm going to be talking to you about is synchronous video communication, and that's video conferencing, where there's an ability for participants to have a two-way conversation via audio and video. Now video conferencing, there's two different types of video conferencing. There's those that work, hang on, I've got an example to show you. There are those that work via a codec and with a camera and a microphone, and that all goes through via IP connection, and that's a super secure way of connecting different classrooms. And now, but the type of video conference we're all now familiar with is the web conferencing, the cloud platform, and Zoom, which we are on today. But today is an asynchronous video communication, because this is a live event, but it's a webinar. So in a webinar, all the attendees, there's no opportunity to see or hear you. So we are speaking at you. Even there is a chat facility, so that is there. but today is a webinar, and it's brilliant. And webinars are great when you've got hundreds and hundreds of participants, which is what you have today, Meg. Now, so video conferencing with live video and audio works best when you have, well, I've actually seen it with a lot of people in live, actually, because the technology, the cloud technology is getting better and better at processing all the video and audio packets. So you are able to have more and more people live communicating. So my next screen. So I want to talk to you about what was happening here in London before COVID-19, what we were doing with video conferencing. So we were working with experts in the classroom. So what you see here on the left-hand side is the Manhattan School of Music in New York, and they're connecting with 3 other classrooms in a multi-point call, 3 other primary schools. And you can see all the children are together, yes, and they're all having a music masterclass. And that's got a camera and the codec, the box that I showed you. That's how we're connecting the classrooms up with the Manhattan School of Music, and they're having a music lesson. And that was in December 2019. And then on the right-hand side, that's my remote teacher, David. And he's connecting, and you can see the camera, he's connecting with the codec in the same way to a classroom in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, to deliver his English classes. So once again, this was a blended learning approach, all of them. And so if we look at the blended approach, teaching approach in both scenarios. So here with the Manhattan School of Music. So they had sent us some information about what they wanted us to do. They gave us feedback. So the children would go and practice and rehearse. So that's what the experts do when they link into the classrooms. So there's this, and then they connect with the teacher. So the teacher acts in the classroom with the children in London. She acts as a hand to help the expert. So in the same way, if you look in the other picture on the right-hand side, as a blended learning approach. You've got David. And my audio is giving some feedback now. Is that true or not? Or can you hear that or not? Or is it pretty clear? Maribel, can you give me a thumbs up if it's clear?
Yeah,
my audio is clear.
There is an echo. Yeah, when you talk, there is an echo. Try again.
Oh, it's okay now. Right. But now there's an echo suddenly. That's really strange. Don't know where that was coming from. Right, so I'm going to carry on because I think it seems to come and go, right?
Now.
Yeah, it's gone again. Right, so on the right-hand side, we've got David. And David is sitting in a classroom in London. And he has a teacher in Brazil who he teams up with to help as part of the blended learning approach, and works with the students who then have an online platform, and email, WhatsApp communications with the teachers. So there's lots of other online tools being used to deliver that English lesson from London to Brazil. So it's not just about the video conferencing. So there's other tools involved in both those situations. So, but note, all of this was done over a secure internet connection via IP. So there's no way that there's going to be any security issues at any time that we were connecting. And maybe the success of us video conferencing before COVID-19 was that, because we could connect in high quality. We never worried about security issues. We had no problems. We just dialed the number and we were in. There was the last thing on our minds. Whereas now, there's lots of scaremongery, I must say, about lots of online platforms and what they do. But that is because they sit in the cloud. When something sits in the cloud, it can be hacked. Anything can be hacked. But there is only one platform that I know of that is secure enough. But I'm going to mention, we're actually on it right now. But I will talk more about that in a little while, and things that teachers need to do to make sure that they are safeguarded and safe online. So this is what's happening during COVID-19 now. And these are pupils at home and teachers at home. And I never thought that I would be taking a photo of this and sharing it at a conference. This was never my plan for video conferencing. This is one of the most dangerous things anybody could do with technology, especially video conferencing. A teacher sitting in her house and the children individually in their homes. I've always been against it. And that's why my teachers would always go into a classroom at Wanstead House. And then we'd dial in. And then there'd be another teacher with the group of children. Because these are young children that we're working with. But these now are young children in their homes with adults, other strangers that we as the teachers don't know anything about. And we're delivering a lesson into their classrooms. So, and I'm going to share a formula with you that has worked. And at first, I didn't think it was going to be possible. So, but it has been possible. And we know it's been possible because we've been doing it. All teachers, we've adapted and we've found a way to do it. So this is the Manhattan School of Music again. And that there is Kelly in New York. So this is the Manhattan School of Music about 5 months later, connecting into a Zoom classroom with their teacher there, and there's Davida, the teacher, and there's the head teacher, Fazana, with their teachers having a music masterclass, all the way from New York City into London. So it's still working. And the school did so well that our local news, the regional news, the TV news, who'd never heard of, schools connecting, anywhere internationally, it was just so new to them, suddenly wanted to report on it. But little did they know, actually, we'd been doing it all the time. We were connecting globally, everywhere, to all kinds of museums and institutions. So one thing COVID-19 has done is it's opened people's eyes to video conferencing. And it's also allowed people to understand and see the power that this technology has. So I want to talk about the global journey that we've all been on, all teachers everywhere in the last few months because of COVID-19. And without knowing it, we've all been doing blended learning. So I'm just going to share now another screen with you, just to talk about some of the blended learning approaches that we've been doing here in London. So I've written these down. So these are some of the technologies when I asked my schools that they've been using. So they've been using Google Docs. You may have used some of these. Some of these are filling, there's a program called Little Bridge. Things that the schools have. They've been calling the pupils, picking up the phone, asking, how are you? How is everything going? They've been using online platforms like Digital Brain, J2E. So these are very English bits of software. Teachers have been writing blogs to stay in touch with students. They've been using printed packs, printing them off, sending them out. So that's for the students that haven't got the technologies. So all these are different teaching approaches. But guess what I'm going to put in the middle of it? Because this is the one tool that without you cannot have a complete learning approach. So I've put video conferencing in the middle. Video conferencing is the heart of any blended learning approach. So, because video conferencing actually puts all of these together. So if you are using websites with the pupils, if you're making phone calls, if you are using blogs, if you're using other ways to communicate with students, the bit that brings them all together, if they're uploading files for homework, if they're whatever tool you are using, the bit that brings it together is the video link, the video communication that you have with the group of students. That's the bit that reinforces the learning. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. So that was a bit about blended learning, with obviously video conferencing being the heart. Video conferencing is the heart of global learning and blended learning. So I want to talk now about considering what you have to consider as teachers before you want a video conference. So you all know you want to see and you want to speak to the students. They're at home. They've been in isolation. You haven't spoken to them. So you know that technologies exist. So like video, like Zoom, that you can communicate with students. So this is what you have to be careful of, because as much as video conferencing, as great as it is, or as much as it can offer students for learning, it can also be very dangerous if you don't implement it properly. So here are some of the key factors. The cloud platform. What platform are you going to use? And is it secure? And I'm going to talk about some of the safety features you need to check. So there are lots of different ones out there. In my opinion, there's only one secure platform currently, and that is Zoom. Zoom has all the tools within it where you can lock the meeting, have a waiting room, and I'm a huge advocate of Zoom. I reviewed all the platforms back in March. When my schools here in England came to me in London and said, right, Mina, we want a video conference. That was their aim. We want to see the children when they're at home. So you have to pick the right platform. So if your platform only lets you see 4 of your students or 9, and then the rest don't have their videos, that's not a video conference platform. If you have a platform, you're trying to share content, and you can't see yourself when you're sharing content, or you can't see your students while you're sharing a content, that's not a video conference platform. So those are huge flaws in some of the platforms that exist. And I feel as though teachers didn't know about this at the beginning. So they all went and rushed and started using platforms without having any training, without knowing that there are dangers to these platforms. I'm going to talk about this in a little while and what you can do about it. The second factor is broadband. And you need broadband for video conferencing. You need the broadband and the technology. And there's a huge digital divide. So for those who have connectivity versus those who don't, even in England. So here are some statistics from our National Office of Statistics for users and non-users in England. So these are all the regions in across England. And you can see that's comparing it from 2018 to 2012. So so these are the number of non-users. So the percentage of non-users here at the bottom. So between 2012 and 18, if we look at London, there are more people now. There are fewer people who are non-users of the internet. But if you look, there are still about 5% on average, look, around 10%, there's 15 in Northern Ireland, between 10 and 15% of the population in the United Kingdom are non-users of the internet. My parents are an example of that. My parents don't see the need for it, right? Now, so there's a household that doesn't see, but they're elderly, so you could argue. But then there will be some families there that they can't afford broadband. They can't afford the data or internet access. Then what about the devices? What about hardware devices to connect with? They're expensive. So once again, there's a huge digital divide. So the conference today, and I know we're talking about English language teaching, but we also have to remember that there are a large population globally, there is a large population globally that are not connected digitally. And we have to be aware of that. And I know my talk today is all about video conferencing. And video conferencing needs the device, it needs the bandwidth. So I know governments out there, all of them out there, and if they're listening, they need to work on bandwidth. The first thing they need to do is work with the broadband companies, bring the bandwidth to rural parts of the world. And then we need to start working on devices. Now, the good thing about video conferencing now, and as the technology's evolved, is it works on mobile phones. And most people have a mobile phone as a device. So even in rural parts, of the world, we'd like to think that the students have mobile phones to connect with. So that helps. And iCloud platforms like Zoom work on mobile phones. So there has been that change as well since then. And mobile phones have data, but once again, the data costs money, and not everybody can afford that. So once again, I'm very much aware of the digital divide that exists globally. And I know today I'm talking about something that requires a device and the bandwidth. But let's move forward and let's talk more about what we can do as a school. So if you are a school or leading a school, before you think about video conferencing or technology, what you need to do is a digital survey. So you need to evaluate the Wi-Fi connectivity in your school or your university. So this goes anywhere. You need to do some kind of survey for the school, the teachers in their homes, the pupils in their homes, and for the wider community, the stakeholders, the governors, anybody else that's part of the school or university community or higher education community. So then you need to find out about the broadband connectivity. What's it like in your institution? What is it like? Do you have the 2 meg upload and download speeds required for Zoom to work? What about your devices? Do they have webcams? So there were schools here in London, some of them, they didn't really need webcams, right? The teachers just needed a laptop. So when this happened, wow, where were all the webcams? We weren't using webcams in school, right? And the schools I worked with, right, let me show you again. We were using codecs with cameras. So why do we need laptops with webcams? So that's all different changes that are going to be made as a result of COVID-19. So, and also, what is the speed? How much memory do you have on your devices? So is your device, is the processor an i7? Is it an i3? Is it a slower processor? The slower the devices, the older devices, they don't process as many video feeds. So you don't see everybody. You see fewer images, and then it goes on the next page. What about mobile phones? Data. How much data? Data costs money. So these are all things for a head teacher to think about. And I think when we were all thrown into COVID-19, it was such a shock for everyone. And it's easy for me to say this in hindsight, that from now on, we should always have a digital survey of our institutions, and we should just keep it so we know about our community, and we know what access they have and what they don't. So then we are aware of how many pupils we can reach out to and deliver classes over video conference, how many we cannot, how many are we going to think of alternative ways to teach. So a digital survey is very powerful. Next thing, so some of the core key factors that you need. So core documents. So before you reach out to pupils in their homes with these strange adults that you may not want to have any interaction with, you need a code of conduct for the children and parents. So a contract with the parents. So signing them in for behavior, for what is expected. And if you don't do that with the parents, if there isn't a code of conduct, for example, the parents aren't allowed to take pictures of the teacher and the children and put them on social media. That should be on there, right? You haven't given permission as a teacher to have your photo taken, right? And the other children in the class haven't. That's just one example of what goes on those parent guidelines. Things like not sharing the ID and password. It's illegal if they did that, or the URL. That they are not allowed to share. But you need to put that in a code of conduct with a contract, because if you don't tell the parents, they won't know. And another thing, teacher support guidance. So teachers need guidance, how the environment that they're going to be at home. So they also need a support guidance document explaining what's expected of them. Because the teachers didn't, well, my remote teachers, it's different from Maribel. She did sign up for teaching online. But most of the teachers out there during COVID-19 didn't sign up to teach online. You'd signed up to teach face-to-face in the classrooms. So this is all new for you. And training. is important. Empower, the word empower. Training empowers teachers. You cannot put teachers on a platform without training. You cannot. And so here are some of the things, and BCFGL provides training for teachers for using Zoom. So when I carry out the training, these are some of the things we do. But whether you're using Zoom, whether you're using Microsoft Teams, whether you're using Google, whatever platform you're using, this is a little check. So if anybody's got their cameras, take a picture of this now. This is what you need to look on your platform. Can you do all of these before you start teaching? Can you lock a meeting? It doesn't matter, whatever the platform. I'm not talking about Zoom. Can you set up a waiting room? All of these protect you as a teacher. Can you auto record? Because you're going into households. If an incident happens and you're at home, vulnerable as well as a teacher. So the auto record acts like your protection camera. So what it does, if an incident were to happen, it's been recorded, and you can report that then to your head teacher or your principal. So have you got that feature? Have you thought about putting that on? Can you remove someone? So if, let's say, a stranger joined the meeting that shouldn't be there, do you know how to remove them? Have you been trained to do that? What happens when your internet drops? So let's say, so the host of the meeting today is Meg. So what happens if Meg's internet were to drop out of the connection? Now, what Zoom does, and this particular, you don't want, can you imagine as a teacher, your internet goes and your children are left alone in that meeting. And not only will they be left alone, the adults in their homes are going to be left alone in that link. How dangerous is that? So what Zoom does, this is why I'm a huge advocate of Zoom. Zoom pushes them into the waiting room. You need to have the waiting room activated. So what happens when the teacher's internet goes and it thinks, oh, the host is gone, something's happened to the host. The participants aren't allowed to stay alone. They're pushed into the waiting room. And then if the teacher doesn't come back, they're gone. Or the teacher can come back and resume the lesson. And can the pupils meet without you? Can they meet without you? They shouldn't be meeting in that link that you've sent when you're not there. How many videos? Do you see all their videos? Are any of their videos switched off? And if their videos are switched off, who's behind that screen? Who's the stranger sitting behind that screen? So how do you know? And this is working with young children online. Like you saw that photograph. There were young pupils. There were over, a whole class joining at once. This is safeguarding them. What about the chat? So the list goes on, but please, everybody, take a picture of this and then go and check on your platforms, whatever it is. Can you do all of this? If you can, go ahead and use your platform. If it doesn't, I would seriously consider Zoom, because Zoom does all of this. Right, next one, teacher training and pedagogy. So this is, I could spend half a day talking about all of this, Maribel and I, because each of these, we could spend hours talking about. Each of these is a topic on their own for teacher training and pedagogy. Once again, Maribel and I will offer training, BCFGL offers training on all of this for any schools interested in wanting to teach using Zoom and using, or any platform and teaching online. But there's lots of things to consider. I've got age versus length of the lesson. So the younger the children, and this now, the pedagogy's changed for us because the children are sitting individually at home. So once again, the blended learning approach is different because we haven't got that classroom teacher with them. Because before, as I showed you in the picture, we had the teacher, the children were sitting together in their classroom, one teacher from London dialing out. Now it's one teacher at home and all the students at home. So for this, what you need to all the pedagogy, it changes now. So, but still, once again, it's all part of a blended learning approach, and nothing works without the other online tools. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. So, and it's not just about the children. So COVID-19, it's not just about the children. So this is an image here of a staff meeting from Glade Primary School here in Northeast London. So the head teacher is there, and she's got over 60 staff in total. So it's a middle-sized primary school. But in this meeting, she had the caretaker, the kitchen staff, the cleaners, because they were being isolated too. So let me show you something. This is an article that was from the TS. So let me go back and share my camera. So there was a journalist called Dan Worth, and he looked at the impact of isolation and how it affects teachers. So it's not just about the children. So if we look here, so the first thing he noted here, so let me zoom in on that. And you can see, here we are. So one thing he said here, there's quite a bit of reflection on this at the moment. So even introverted teachers, they enjoy being with people. And they spend the majority of their times in the, and even if you're an introvert as a teacher, you're still very sociable. You still love the interaction. So when COVID-19 came along, all this was taken away from teachers. So now here's what they've also found. So this was a school in Scotland. So what they found was that when it comes to pupil interactions, and the teachers who are more connected via video and the more social online, they've managed to move away, they've become more closer to the physical classroom. So the more video and online interactions they have, the closer they are. The shift from the physical classroom hasn't been so high. And then also, what else we found? Let's move this across here. So what else we found is that the social element of education. So, and this was a former head teacher who's now a remote teacher in Australia, Timothy Hawkes. And he was saying that he actually found that the social element of education can still exist when delivering distance learning. So that happens because you need, over video conference, the thing that you can deliver is that social aspect, because it's synchronous. You're talking back. And that's what we need during COVID-19. It's the heart. As I say, you can have all the online tools that you want, but video conferencing is the heart of the blended learning approach when it came to COVID-19. So let's go back. I just want to go back to my PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. So it's not just about the children. So the staff were meeting weekly. They meet weekly. And normally, and some teachers are at home, isolated on their own as well. So for them to have a weekly meeting, and they would normally have a staff meeting every week. So for them to be meeting over the COVID-19 period, over video conference, was brilliant. The school was still a normal routine that was continuing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some research that Dr. Warren Kidd has done. And he's written on the British Educational Research Association's blog, BERA, about the video conferencing work, of my organisation and the school that we just showed at Glade Primary. And he's actually going to now work with a number of schools, all from different contexts, to just prove the impact that video conferencing has had. And it's all found online, and it's all to do with agility, return, and recovery. And he's actually talking about how, if I go to the next page, so this is what he's found. So basically, one of the teachers has explained to him during his research that basically I'm the same, but not in the same way. But the teachers are having to find that they're having to be more flexible. And because They just they've not been trained, these ones have been trained, but they've not had long-term experience on teaching online. They've had training with me, with some pedagogy, with some safeguarding, and all the rooms on Zoom. So they're there, but this is new for them, and it's difficult times for the families. And what they're finding is that what video conferencing is doing, it's maintaining a community. None of the other technologies that I showed you on my blended learning diagram no other technology is able to do that. Video conferencing brings a community together. Look what's happening to all of us today for EnproLI. Video conferencing technology, iCloud webinar, is bringing us all together. So that's what he's found. And this was published on the 5th of June, 2020. And more recently, on the 20th, I haven't got time to go through all of this, he's published some more blogs, and he's going to be publishing his final paper very shortly about his findings of using video conferencing by teachers in their homes to children in their homes.
Camila,
and he's got a podcast.
No private, porque inclusive ela me pediu isso, que ela tem 100 e poucos seguidores e ela não quer aumentar. Ela quer que conheçam a empresa dela.
I can hear you, Meg.
Trabalha com negócios. Então, cuidado, antes de divulgar alguma coisa sobre os palestrantes, sempre é bom perguntar.
Meg, I can hear you. Meg?
Ah, you can hear me. I'm
yes.
sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Everybody heard what you just said, by the way, Meg. But I hope it was all in Portuguese, and I'm assuming it was all okay, right? Anyway, so this is all about the role of the community, and there's a podcast all about that, which you can listen to. And he's actually talking about teacher training. And teachers who are in universities, who are currently being trained to be teachers now, and what's going to happen to them when they go into schools in September. This is when our new term starts. So how are they going to react, and how agile and flexible are they going to have to be? So he's looking into that as well. So that's his podcast. And if any of you are thinking are potential teachers and going into schools for the first time, or thinking of doing that, please listen to his podcast, because it's all based around secondary education as well. So any of you who are potentially going to be working as English teachers in high schools, or anything to do with technology, that is a great podcast to listen to. It's all in English though, everybody. Right, so teaching children at home over video conference. So just some final points from me. Flip your lesson. So by that, I mean, don't do lengthy classes. It doesn't work over video conference because, as I said, the scenarios change. The children are sitting individually at home on the screens. This isn't as Maribel and David and Chavi and all my other remote teachers are used to, where we've got a whole group of students all together interacting with each other and their teacher in a classroom, and we are beaming a lesson out to them. These are children sitting at home individually. So to keep their attention, to make you make key learning objectives, and you stick to those. You do short recaps, booster classes for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, no full lesson, and then everything else is done online. And the video conference lesson should check more on the community, the health and well-being of the children. It should be more about that. And then the key learning happens online. Some of it, obviously, you can deliver over video conference, and that's up to you. But use other online tools and blend your teaching approach. And as I will always say, because I will, keep video conferencing at the center of it all. All the other tools go around, video conferencing's at the middle. It keeps the whole community together. Right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about when we were connecting to Brazil. So this is going back to before COVID-19. So let's have a look at this. So why we were connecting to Brazil. So the Brazilians, so this was actually, I know that's got 2019, but the one I have here is from 2019. So English proficiency for Brazil. So your ranking at the moment is 59 out of, I think there's about 100 different countries. So there's a need for Brazil to learn English, the students to learn English, teachers to be more proficient, more confident when speaking English. So this is what video conferencing for learning does. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more about what we're doing now as well. So we were delivering classes, live classes to students into their classrooms. We were training the teachers. So this was the blended learning approach, training the teacher at the same time. So I've already talked about that. And our methodology was one remote lesson and then a face-to-face, which was acted like a online training session for the teachers. And then we would team teach. So we'd plan together. So we would share our PowerPoints, we would share resources and websites and our pedagogy and the way we were teaching English. So we would share that with the teachers as well. So here were the benefits for Brazilian teachers for teaming up and working in a blended learning approach with teachers here in the UK, is that it will support your language training. And starting, starting next week, we're going to be delivering teacher training to teachers in Sao Paulo. So we won't be linking with the students. We will have our teacher at home teaching English and supporting English teachers to improve their English in Sao Paulo. So they will be sitting in their homes. So we are working on that. So that's a new model for us as well. So for me, I've got a teacher at home. That's scary for me because I've always been against it, but Zoom has proved me wrong in the last couple of months, and everyone's allowed to be wrong every now and then. And I'm actually quietly confident that it's going to work because I'm going to safeguard my teacher once again. And I gave you the list for the safeguarding. Even though she's working with adults, some of those rules still apply. So some final research from Dr. Warren Kidd. So he did this research in 2019. So this was specifically about the work video conferencing for global learning was doing with Brazil. So on this research paper, if you Google it, it's been published by UEL in November. It's all about Brazil. It's about Brazil connecting with the United Kingdom for English classes. So please have a look at that. And it's looking at video conference pedagogy, you know, and what it's found and what Warren found, so this is part of his conclusion, that what the teachers in London, my teachers, felt that being in London and located in England meant their lesson was more authentic and real. And it was the technology is key. As I said earlier, using the right platform makes such a difference. Cloud platform or whether it's a codec setup, it makes a huge difference. If you empower your teacher, you can achieve almost anything because your teacher will have the right tools to work with and the lesson that's delivered will be amazing. So the pupils benefit. Right, so, and this is the support that we are currently giving to Brazilian teachers. So as I said, we are using Zoom and supporting Brazilian teachers in their homes. You know, we've got a session at 9 o'clock in the evening, our time, 5 p.m. for Brazil, that's fine, next week. But we're going to be training teachers. So teachers who have a little bit, who are okay with their English, but who actually want to improve their proficiency and practice with a native speaker. So we're working with them for that. We are also running some teacher training for pedagogy, on online pedagogy for video conference. So those of you who are teaching remotely and you want to be better at it. So we're providing training for that. And obviously the key thing, safeguarding your remote teacher. So if there's any principals or head teachers or anybody wanting to learn more about how to protect teachers when they're teaching online, we can definitely help you with that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand over to Maribel. She's in Spain. She'll tell you exactly where in a minute. And she's one of my remote teachers. And she's going to talk to you all about being a remote teacher. So over to you, Maribel. I'm going to mute my mic.
Thank you very much, Mina. So, how to become a outstanding remote teacher, right? So the secret to successful remote learning is likely something you already do. You just need to refine it, right? So it means meaningful learning in the sense that the learner can then apply it to new situations in the future. So the information has a meaning beyond its immediate context. Okay? Please, Mina, can you move forward in our PowerPoint? Can everybody hear me?
Your audio is breaking up really badly.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
a
but it
shame.
seems okay. Meg, can we have some feedback from you, please? Is it just me?
And from Q&A?
No, not feedback. Is Maribel's audio okay? Can you hear it?
Oh, okay. No, it's breaking up. It's cutting.
It is.
Yeah. Let's see.
Why don't, Maribel, if you carry on for a little while and then I might have to take over. Yeah? Is that okay?
Okay.
Let's just try a couple of more slides and then I think I know a little bit about what you've put on. Okay? All right.
That's good. So we want to understand the world or help others understand it. So effective learning requires a great combination of the last three parts on this cone of learning I am showing you. So new ideas have to connect like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. So if we go ahead with our PowerPoint, please, Mina. Okay, so what makes a good remote teacher? Okay, so make sure that you motivate your students to participate in their own learning. So we can empower our learners to be in charge of it by negotiating their own program of participation and gradually take responsibility for their own learning in an active way. For example, you can see here a few recommendations, time for recreation, where the students take the leadership and they are the protagonists on their own learning journey. So they are learning while having fun, the best way possible for us. Okay, and then understand as well that every student is different. So they might have difficulties interacting over video conferencing. So make sure that you offer different opportunities for them, so they don't feel shy or they feel absolutely confident during the video call. Is everybody with me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. Okay. I'm just a little bit worried because I can see that my image is frozen, is a little bit. I'm so sorry. I do apologize. I'm going to try to carry on.
Maribel, I've got an idea. Switch off your video. Just let your audio run. Yeah. It'll be much better.
Okay. Maybe. Why? I normally works really well, but maybe with that many participants.
Switch it off.
Yeah. Just 2 seconds, please.
Shall I? Okay. Brilliant.
Yes. Okay. So, just a moment, please. Yeah. So this is the student focus. How teachers can do in order to motivate the students over video conference. Okay. And then yes, we can carry it now, Mina. Okay. So now the teacher focus. So if I will have to give you a piece of advice, I will say connect ideas to other ideas and everyday things. So once you make connection, the question is, how do I maintain them? Well, here you have some other recommendations for you to keep up the interactive communication, and that will have an active effect on one and another. Okay, so be understanding, communicate a lot during the video call, and when the video call is over, always being aware of the students' needs and trying to meet their requirements and their needs. Also, attending their request in other ways, such as an email, such as messages through the website we are using. So there's a lot of different ways to communicate and keep up the communication and the relationship with the student. Okay, so we can move on again. Mina? So PBL, the goal is to collaboratively create a model and vision for high quality project-based learning. So this is a student-centered pedagogy, which is believed that students acquire a deeper knowledge through active exploration of real-world challenges and problems. Engaging our kids in the joy of learning is easy. For example, we can demonstrate a lab or activity that they can do at home, and then they can video themselves and share it with the class on the next lesson, or even creating a video bulletin board for them to upload their piece of work, like we have in the CFGL. And it's a platform where they can see everybody's contribution. Okay, and yes, we go. So remote teachers are using synchronous communication. Both the sender and the receivers, the students, are active at the same time. But remember that online habits of interactions are differently habituated than in the classroom, except to meet that habitation creatively. Okay, so for example, other ways to keep in touch or to use your creativity ideas, we can do post announcement, like during the regular intervals, like maybe at the beginning of every class, or every week, sorry. This could be an announcement at the start of the week, reminding students of upcoming assignments, exams, or notable happenings. Okay, so now this video conferencing is the key part of blended learning approach. Yes,
Maribella, we are a bit short of time because I've just seen what time it is, and I know Meg's got other speakers, so I'm going to skip the video. Is that okay? And go to the next. We're going to quickly go through the last few bits, and we may not have time for discussion. Is that okay? So I don't want to run over for Meg's schedule. So we're going to leave the video, okay?
It was something that we were doing, so like it was an example. So, but here you have the main ideas based on this video. What we do, using real items, alternative cameras, role plays, daily routines. So there is a wide variety of activities we perform. This is the London Bridge that we also make like to be as good as possible, and we can do also providing real experiences in our country. In this case is England, as I work in England normally, but I am back here in Spain for a while. But then, yeah, this is London safety and the internet. We must educate pupils on internet safety, understand the real meaning of online safely, while still allowing them the freedom to use the internet. This includes informing them of the risks and drawbacks of the web while encouraging the benefits, but always, taking care of the risks. Okay, and there are a couple of links that you can search yourself in your own time if you would like to know more. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to ask any questions and so on. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you enjoy our presentation.